What if I told you one of the healthiest foods in your fridge, one that every vegan, vegetarian, wellness guru, and farm-to-table hipster restaurant swears by, could potentially be a carcinogenic landmine? And what if I told you any attempts to discuss this have been mysteriously silenced? What do Joe Rogan, a handful of dead Italian scientists, and the mafia have in common? Well, they're all Italian, and also a mushroom, which you probably already gathered by reading the title of this video, Portobello mushrooms. I'm King Trout, and due to a tragic gypsy curse, if I don't move my recording studio at least once every 3 months, my heart will explode. Join me today as we dive into the dirty, dingy, musty mushroom hole that is the conspiracy behind Portobellos. It's the vegetarian steak. Tastes great on pizza and burgers, depending on if you like mushrooms, because a lot of people don't. But regardless, don't let the umami charm of the Portobello fool you. This fungus is packing a molecular punch. It's a chemical called agaritine. Now, agaritine, obviously, is what we in the scientific community call a phenylhydrazine derivative. It's a chemical naturally produced by the fungus. Portobellos are a member of the mushroom species Agaricus bisporus. The same family of mushrooms contains button mushrooms, white mushrooms, cremini mushrooms, portobellos, and many, many more. It's like most of the edible mushrooms that are commonly found, honestly. The problem is, phenylhydrazines are known to be mutagenic, meaning they damage DNA. They've also been found to be carcinogenic in studies performed on animals. In studies conducted on rats, the ingestion of agaritine was linked to tumor development in their lungs, bladders, and stomach linings. It's always the important organs, it's never one of the worthless ones. Now, it is true that agaritine levels drop when the mushrooms are cooked, but by how much varies widely by how you cook them. Microwave them, fry them. Why'd I go with microwave first? What a disgusting method. Saute, grill, boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. I've been on the internet for longer than some of you have been alive. And also, where the mushrooms come from. Point is, different outcomes, different risks. A lot of variability. And the kicker is, there has never been a long-term study on what levels of agaritine are safe to consume. The original concerns about agaritine spawned from a series of studies conducted in the 70s and 80s, most notably from research conducted at McGill University up there in Canada, as well as the German Cancer Research Center. One 1982 study found that mice fed agaritine developed tumors at statistically significant rates, specifically in the gastrointestinal tract. The longer the exposure, the higher the risk. Another study conducted in 1985 found that hydrazine compounds are structurally almost identical to rocket fuel additives. Seriously, you're sauteing a chemical compound that is nearly chemically identical to rocket fuel additive. And this isn't fringe science. No, the EPA lists several hydrazine compounds as potential carcinogens. So why hasn't this blown up into a big scandal? Well, let's just say there's a fungus among us. Enter the mushroom lobby. Seriously, there are mushroom lobbyists. Two of the largest ones in the country are the American Mushroom Institute and the Mushroom Council, both of which, every time I read the name of, just remind me of the fucking Lollipop Guild from Wizard of Oz. I just imagine, I don't know the word you're supposed to use for them anymore, but small individuals dancing and singing. But now it's like a multi-billion-dollar industry where they sway our politicians to vote according to their favor. What's new? But seriously, they're giant industry-based lobbying groups who control, like, as silly as it sounds, the messaging around mushrooms. They try and push American consumption of mushrooms. Unfortunately, not that kind. And also, they throw money at politicians to control taxes, things like that. The things lobbyist groups do. I don't know why I'm explaining this to you. You know what lobbyist groups are if you're here watching this, I'm sure. Anyway, they say that portobellos are perfectly safe for human consumption, because obviously they do. And they have studies that prove they are. But you'll never guess who conducted those studies. Virtually every study that has found portobellos to be perfectly safe for human consumption has either been funded by, these lobbyist groups, or has been peer-reviewed by scientists who have been funded by these lobbyist groups. And I have to be very careful about my wording here, because I learned while researching this video about something called food libel law. This blew my mind. There are multiple states, 13 I think, off the top of my head, in the United States of America, where if you make a claim about a food item that is not scientifically proven to be true, you can be sued for committing food libel, which is insane. Obviously, it was funded by lobbyist groups like the silly mushroom people, or whatever their names officially are. You can be sued for saying shit about a food in America.
I thought this was America.
God, it makes me fear for my safety online. How about a word from our sponsor?
You know what's infuriating? These data brokers are selling everything about us. Where we live, who we talk to, even what we Google. All without asking. No permission.
Wait, like selling our private info? To whom?
To anyone! Scammers, spammers, stalkers. They don't care. These companies make billions off of our lives, and the government does nothing. Meanwhile, your address, your phone number, they're probably already floating around on some shady forum right now.
Man, that's actually terrifying.
It should be. Your privacy is just a line item on some executive's quarterly earnings call. You ever felt creeped out by an ad that knew a little bit too much about you? That's why. They're laughing all the way to the bank and probably greasing up some politicians so all this stays legal.
What the hell do we do about it?
Well, I started using Aura, who's sponsoring this video. They track down the data brokers exposing your info and automatically send opt-out requests. No paperwork, no forms.
Wait, they do all of that for you?
Yeah, and they monitor the dark web, alert you to credit fraud attempts, even give you a VPN, password manager, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. That's a lot of dollars.
Okay, that's serious.
Try it free for 14 days at aura.com/KingTrout. That's enough time to start ripping your info off those sketchy sites. I'm in. I want my damn privacy back. Wait, where are you going?
I'm signing up for my free trial at aura.com/KingTrout.
Okay, well, most people say bye when conversation ends.
Huh? Who are you talking to?
Me, but with glasses on.
Am I gonna have to start wrapping your pills in pieces of cheese again?
And we're back. Meanwhile, nearly every independent researcher who has attempted to publish their findings regarding the safety of human consumption of portobello mushrooms has found their research to suddenly run out of funding, or they will mysteriously change their focus. Scientific research being shut down because the findings would lose someone money? Sound familiar? It should. That's what Big Tobacco did, and Big Sugar, and Big Asbestos. Nothing ever changes. I reviewed a clip a second ago, and there's like a line. It looks like I painted my face on. It's a tan line. Look, I'll show you the hat I was wearing. I went on vacation last week. That's why there was no video. Cut to 2022. Famed mycologist, because he's like the only one anyone's ever heard of, Paul Stamets went on the Joe Rogan Experience, old Rogie's podcast. For the entirety of the episode, they talked about the wonders of mushrooms, psychedelics, lion's mane, cordyceps. He is a mushroom scientist, so, that's what they talked about. But regardless, things took an awkward turn at one moment in the podcast. At one point during the podcast, he warned Joe not to cook portobellos at high heat because it releases toxic chemicals, including agaritine. And Joe was like, wait, what? And then Paul was like, oh, I can't discuss this any further because it would put my life at risk. And then Joe, I would play the clip, but I don't want to like get a copyright strike from fucking Joe Rogan. Anyway, Joe was like, wait, what? And then he just stared at him with a blank face. And he's like, okay, I guess we'll continue on. And they edited some stuff out of there. It was weird. So it's like the mushroom guy, the one guy who literally all he talks about is mushrooms, won't talk about one kind of mushroom. That got me scratching my noggin. 3 years ago when I watched that episode when it came out. But hey, we're here now and we're talking about it. Let's head over to Italy. Oh, shit. Italy is Europe's top producer of mushrooms. They're also one of the largest exporters of Portobello-related species worldwide.
Wow.
When most people have an overabundance of fungus, it's a medical issue that requires an ointment or a cream. But in Italy, an overabundance of fungus means money is to be made. And where there's money to be made, there will be crime. Sometimes of the organized variety. The mob. In the 2010s, Italy's anti-mafia task force found several mushroom farms that were being used to launder money for drug cartels, illegally employ individuals they'd smuggled in from Eastern Europe and Northern Africa, dump agricultural waste illegally, and also, kicker, get this one, they were falsifying quality standards on their mushroom shipments. Because these mushrooms had an unsafely high level of agaritine. Because while there is no level considered safe for human consumption in America, there is in the EU. Multiple mafia-connected companies were quietly seized, restructured, and kind of swept under the rug. But here's where it gets weirder. A 2018 Italian court case involved a whistleblower who claimed a particular region's mushroom output contained dangerous levels of industrial contamination, as well as dangerously high levels of agaritine that vastly exceeded the EU's safety standards. The case was sealed, and the whistleblower, he disappeared. I mean, like, literally, no one knows where he went. Just disappeared. Let's roll the body count. Dr. Elena Peretti, a food safety scientist, was investigating fungal carcinogens when her lab exploded. The ruling? Accidental gas leak. Happens to the best of us when we're examining fungus-based carcinogens. Marco Donatelli, a freelance journalist, was writing an expose on black market mushroom operations when, for no reason whatsoever, he got the shit kicked out of him and his files stolen. Gone forever. A German researcher working on agaritine metabolism published a paper in 2015 discussing the risks. However, by 2017, she fully redacted the study, citing external pressures, upon which she refused to elaborate. This isn't just a European issue. In 2021, a Canadian food blogger with 100,000 followers went on a podcast rant about portobellos and cancer. And within 48 hours, the episode was entirely taken down. The podcast claimed they were receiving multiple legal threats. Then, her website was the recipient of a coordinated DDoS attack. All because she talked about mushrooms. Mushrooms. So why hasn't this become a bigger story? Well, because the premise itself sounds absurd. Oh, there's a certain type of mushroom that everybody eats all the time causes cancer, but that secret's being protected by the mafia and multi-million-dollar corporations. Plausible absurdity, I guess is what you could call that, but... Stranger things have happened. All I know is when a conspiracy sounds dumb on the surface, people tend to ignore it. Meanwhile, portobellos are being pushed as a meat substitute, a clean protein superfood. I don't know what clean protein means, but that's what they kept saying. A meat substitute. All while containing a known mutagen. The most damning thing of all, they've never undergone proper FDA cancer risk trials. Why? Well, because mushrooms fall under something called GRAS, generally regarded as safe, which is a loophole wherein the industries self-certify safety standards for their food. We've investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing. So what should we do? Are portobellos deadly? Here's the real answer. No one knows, because we're not allowed to find out. Anytime someone does attempt to research it, who isn't funded by the people who would benefit from agaritine being found to be safe for human consumption, they get silenced or their research gets funding slashed. I just find it incredibly suspicious is all. Nothing I've said in this video implies in any way that I believe that Portobello mushrooms contain dangerous levels of the chemical agaritine, which is known to cause mutagenic malformations in DNA, leading to tumors in mice, even though there are regulations on it in Europe for that exact reason. Because I learned about food libel laws yesterday. Wouldn't that be funny if, like, every conspiracy theory that I cover, I get killed by mushroom people? That'd be funny. I mean, no, it wouldn't, but you know what I mean. Listen, all I'm saying is we used to think DDT was good for crops, leaded gasoline was safe to breathe, and 9 out of 10 doctors recommended Camels. Anything could happen. Allegedly. Again, allegedly. Is the mushroom lobby using its money and power to sway scientific findings, politicians, to keep us in the dark in regards to the safety of the food that we eat and the legislation surrounding it? I don't know. You can decide that for yourself. Because I'm not going to say directly, because that would be libelous. So I'm not going to do that. I did make a whole video discussing the topic, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching. I've been King Trout. I'll see you when I see ya.